Welcome to TORAH Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with episode number 42 of Controversial Issues with Rabbi Chaim Coffman from the Holy Land, straight to Texas. Today's episode is going to be called Miracles, Signs and Wonders. Are these things proof that God is on my side? That's a great question. That topic gets brought up quite a bit in a lot of conversations, actually. Just to give you a little quick pre-qualifier for that, when my oldest brother, had found out that I had parked the New Testament, put it behind, and just left it all completely. He tried to reason with me. He goes, man, he goes, all these miracles and these wonderful things that are happening in the name of Jay, and things like that. And I've talked with him before about it, Rabbi, about even the New Testament even talks about where there's miracles supposedly happening or signs of wonders, and Jesus said, well, they're not following us or whatever, so actually I can tell you what it says, but not the point. Point being, Rabbi, it's good to have you back. I'll get you in the studio one of these days if you ever visit Texas, and welcome back to the show. It's been a long break.
The studio can handle me, so it better be made out of kryptonite or something.
Yeah.
'Cause I'll just come and huff and puff and just knock it all down.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, you'd be the one to do it, so that's okay. 2 times, man. 3rd time's a charm, right? So there you go. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Let me make sure. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to open the phone lines up here in just a minute, and so be sure when you call in, keep your questions or comments related directly to today's topic, if you don't mind. So, and I know some people will tune in late and they totally miss the fact that I said that, but it's okay. We'll just we'll take calls as they come in. And so, with that said, there's probably a lot of different areas and angles you want to cover this from. But now you know the motive why I picked this topic, so that way you can include, whatever you're going to do, work your little magic on stuff. So, all right. So let's get going. Let's talk about this whole miracle thing. So let's say that somebody's praying in the name of Muhammad or somebody, and a miracle comes to pass, and it's like this thing happens. I mean, why is it that Judaism really doesn't care too much about when people perform what looks to be a miraculous sign or something like that? What in Scripture of the Hebrew Scriptures, aka Old Testament, as they would call it, would tell you that that's not something that's that important?
Because in the book of Deuteronomy, now people have claims against me. I don't quote things. I just talk about Kabbalah. So in Deuteronomy, it talks about the false prophet. If a false prophet comes and does miracles, it could do it. It could, take from the dark side, do miracles, but he goes against what the Torah says. Miracles are relevant, right? There are different ways, obviously, that can be done. The last open miracle that we know of is what happened by the miracle of Hanukkah.
Oh yeah,
so
right.
we don't have miracles today. We don't see them openly, as God taking us out doing, whatever, saving us. There are things, person, let's say, gets in a terrible car crash or whatever, car's totally smashed to smithereens, they walk out without a scratch, right? There are different things we could say. Wow, can we pinpoint it 100%, to say that it's an absolute miracle and it's clear? Now, obviously, there'll be skeptics all the way through, right? You can't pinpoint something 100%. Say, oh, look, this is an open miracle of God. Maybe yes.
Right.
Maybe yes, maybe no. But we don't have prophecy today, right? Prophecy is only in the hands of little children or imbeciles, right? So we don't have prophecy, so we don't know, right? It's an impossibility to know. But again, the Torah says even if someone does a miracle, but it goes against what the Torah says, then it's false. So miracles can be done by, through sorcery. It doesn't mean it comes from God. So someone could say, like you mentioned, well, I prayed to JC and I got saved and I got healed. did you ever watch the the Monty Python, The Life of Brian? I can see. Ah, he falls in a pit. Like you have to watch the end. Anyway,
Okay.
the point is that doesn't, so what? Just because the person, will pray to that God and they'll think, well, that God, so to speak, or that prophet or who knows what, did that. That's no proof. That's no proof for anything. There are many ways the evil inclination works that can convince us, oh, this is an absolute miracle. I prayed to JC and my prayers were answered. Well, maybe you were saved for any number of reasons. Someone texted me earlier, mentioned about the fact that a person, let's say a person's saved in a miraculous way. Now, that's not necessarily good. The reason it's not necessarily good is because a person could have used up a tremendous amount of merit that they could have gotten in the next world that they use, that they end up getting saved. Right? In other words, something could happen. Let's say a person, a good example, person, gets in a car accident and the car is totaled. Person never should have been able to walk out alive, never mind without a scratch. So let's say, they get bruised up a little bit, whatever. But at the end of the day, according to nature, they should have been crushed. So why do they get saved? So it could be in the bigger scheme of things that they had certain merit, and through that merit, that protected them. They had to go through it for whatever reason, but that merit protected them. Now, if someone wants to believe and make a mistake, right, and certainly make a mistake in what they believe, so the Talmud says clear, a person goes in the right direction, God will help him. You go in the wrong direction, God's not going to stop you. So if a person wants to believe in the wrong thing, okay, you want to say, well, I prayed and this was my answer. Well, how do you know? How do you know that was what happened? It could, something that a person goes through today could have transformed like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 months ago, and all these things happen one after another, then all of a sudden boom, it comes right now. So that means because you prayed right now that I was saved? We have no idea. We have zero idea, what goes on in the world, how God runs things, and all that. Again, just because something happened now and just because you prayed before is no guarantee that is the reason. We'll say, well, if I didn't pray to him, it wouldn't have happened. My grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bus. So what? You can't bring there's no concrete proof, right? If a person, Talmud says clear, if a person says that they prayed well, they prayed with all kinds of intention that God's going to answer their prayers. Person's called a conceited, it's called iyun tefillah. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to say because now you're saying, because I had all this intention, look what God did for me. How in the world? I mean, we could break it down into multiple levels what a person can do. And even so, you don't think God could find a way that you did something wrong, even though you thought you were 100%, you had all intention, you were tuned in. For one split second, something might have happened. God said, "Nope, sorry, you didn't reach that. You didn't reach that higher level. You weren't, you weren't responsible for this. So, whatever, whatever the case is."
Let me just interject a thought on this whole thing. So there's a lot. The general direction I'm trying to cover today is not so much on the Kabbalistic view as far as that goes, like the deeper spiritual side, which I personally am interested in. But I think the people who will click on this video to watch it are going to want to hear more questions that are like related to are there miracles happening in other religions, for example, and which there have been. I mean, we had a show with Rabbi Singer one time, and he had mentioned a few things from different cultures and from different areas where what looks to be miracles are happening. So if Christianity is wanting to base their full belief, well, not full, but I mean base a lot of why they believe based on miracles and signs and wonders, then how is it they can't really use that? I mean, you discussed Deuteronomy 13, chapter 1, and I think Deuteronomy 18 even hits that topic a little bit as well. And it does, and it like you said, it's something. It's a test for the people. I mean, it wouldn't be a test. Wouldn't be a test if it didn't tempt you, to follow along with it. So,
well, keep in mind one thing. Most people are not aware of this. That some of the miracles that the Talmud says that even that JC did, he had certain name and carved on his leg. Right, a certain ineffable name. He was able to do certain things. But what was it based on? It wasn't based on what God wanted, right? He tapped into something.
Right.
Just like in these other religions, you can tap in, to the dark side or whatever, and you can do miracles, right? Is it possible? It's possible if you tap. To tap into the dark side. It's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to know what to do. You just have to know what to do, what to say and how to say it and whatever. You don't have to be on any spiritual level whatsoever. To tap into the good side and to have miracles occur. Okay, that's something, that's something totally different. But, in general, even if, these so-called these other people and these other religions can do certain things, defy gravity, and defy, all these things. So how can they do that? According to natural means, doesn't make any sense, right? But obviously they must be tapping into something,
mm-hmm.
right? They have, if they're tapping into the dark side, fine. So, okay, so you're gonna say, well, why does God allow them, to do a miracle? Well, I'm not God. I didn't play him on TV. But the answer is, he gives everyone the opportunity to choose,
mm-hmm.
One way or the other. You want to go down the wrong path, okay, so you can believe that they're doing miracles. Can people be fooled? They can certainly be fooled. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not real.
Yeah,
it
right.
can certainly be real. The question is what mechanism, are they using?
I'll tell you.
They want to use a false, not a false, but a dark side mechanism. Anyone can tap into that.
I had years ago when I was going to a church here in this Central Texas area. There was a lot of, well, now I call them just rumors or claims, if you will. Just always hearing from all these other churches in Austin and even outside of Texas altogether, just all across the world, if you will, of all these miracles that are taking place. And it's interesting that I never actually saw any of them myself with my own eyes. I used to tell people I did. I was very dishonest about it because I was committed to making them to getting somebody to believe. I was like, oh man, you should have seen it. I was there. And it's like, and it wasn't really considered a lie because it's like it's for the good of the kingdom, right? So, but the reality of it is, I never saw anything. I never saw one single miracle. In fact, some people that I've interviewed over the years who heard the same things, none of them had seen any miracles either. And these are from different states, from Tennessee,
right?
And from here. And
most of Christianity is based on a few people supposedly saw certain things.
Right, but here's the thing: even if they did, actually, before I go there, I want to one more place. There was a church in I think it's Brownwood or something like that. There's a major revival that was happening, where people were like driving, like busloads of people would go there to see it because of all the miracles and stuff that was happening there. There was word that that cops were taking thugs and dropping them off at the church, and they were getting saved and healed and all this. It was so many stories you couldn't imagine. So our church decided to go down there, and so we all took a bus and went to this place. And lo and behold, we got there, and man, the place was just jam-packed. There was people waiting in the streets just to try to get in, but they had already knew we were coming, so they let us in, and it was a complete letdown. I mean, because I got there, and not one single. It was like a Benny Hinn ceremony, and it's like there really wasn't anything at all, not even close to provable, that even was going on there. But the rumors were flooding the place. We went there, none of us. I mean, and all these people even were, at the time I was a Christian and I was excited to see it, and we were all talking about on the way back on how that was kind of like boring in a way because nothing really happened that night. Maybe we showed up on the wrong night, right? And so, but at the end of the day, if we did go there, and let's say that they were performing all these miracles, some guy, got a mangled leg and all of a sudden it straightens up and he starts playing hacky sack or something like that, right? That's not the point, right? I mean,
hey, do people still play hacky sack?
Dude, I still play hacky sack, man. It's good
All right, there you go.
exercise.
There
It's
you
good
go.
exercise.
Well, it's been a great show.
so
Another miracle.
So at the end of the day, even if a person does, it doesn't matter what name they use. If they use JC, if they pray in the name of Moses, if they in the name of Muhammad or whoever, Hare Krishna, it doesn't. According to the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, that's a set of guidelines that were never to be tampered with. I mean, it says, "Do not add to or diminish from the book of the Torah," or however it's worded. And so if anybody comes up, in fact, that verse that you just quoted, Deuteronomy 13, if anybody comes up and says, yeah, but, and then they perform a miracle, what do you do? I mean, what's your comments on all
Kill
that?
them.
No.
You kill them. That's what the Torah.
Yeah,
That's what the Torah says.
Yeah.
He's a false prophet.
Right.
He's a false prophet.
He deserved to die. So if he was a false prophet who deserved to die, then by the New Testament confession, Jesus' death was deserving. It wasn't it wasn't just because he died for his sins.
But he did a tremendous amount of things against what the Torah says.
Right.
I mean, a number of things. So, using sorcery is not punishable by death.
Okay.
It's not usually. It's a transgression. You're not allowed to tap in. Right. It's forbidden. It doesn't mean you get the death penalty.
Okay.
Right. You're not gonna. It's that you're playing with fire. Right, you're absolutely playing with fires. It doesn't matter, if they're saying it's prophecy and whatever. Okay, that's something different. If they're tapping in, there was a story many years ago here in Tel Aviv that somebody was healing people in tremendously extraordinary ways. So someone went, like a Kabbalist, like what I think, or a Rav went undercover. Told me this problem, that problem, the other problem, see how this doctor, quote unquote, was going to deal with it. And in the end, this doctor contorted and his body contorted and whatever. He ended up using certain incantations, in order to, to find out information on what to do. He's tapping into sorcery, right? But, any of these things, it's not a normal thing. It doesn't matter, again, either they're going to say in the name of this, the name of that, the name of the other thing, but then they mention some incantation, the thing happens. It's not the name of them. It's a certain name of God. Remember, Rashi brings out that when Abraham marries Keturah known as Hagar, right? It says, Rashi over there brings out that the Torah says that Abraham gave him gifts, gave the sons of Keturah, the children of Keturah that he had with Hagar, he gave them gifts, right? What gifts were they that he gave them? The gifts were, he gave them Shemus Atzuma. He gave them, let's say, names from the dark side in order to tap into sorcery, and he sent them to the east. Now we understand that to be, he sent them way east. Where is way east? I mean the far east, right? Though it's not, it's not something that's strange. That wow, where did the Far East come up with all the, all these different things? It starts from, the beginning of time, from the time of Abraham, what he gave over. Why did he give it over? Okay, that's the whole question, right? Why he would give this over to his, to his kids to spread across, spread across the Far East. But again, it's something that someone wants to tap into. They can't. It's not something that we should, by any stretch, but at the same time, not punishable by death. So, the main thing, we have to keep in mind is just because you said it in someone's name doesn't mean that's the reason it happened.
Right. That's a good point too. Yeah.
And I think that's where people get confused.
Right.
It must be because of this. I mean, are you that thick?
Mm-hmm.
Are you that stupid to think that, you're going to say one thing and God's going to bring it down, so all of a sudden this happens in that way? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have no idea how the world works. We see a fraction.
What used to get to me? What used to get to me was when I was a Christian. I mean, the New Testament flat out says all these things that I have done, you will do, and even greater things than this because you do it in my name, right? But the thing about it is you never see that stuff happening. I mean, like I said, I mean, I've heard of thousands and thousands, but I've never actually. Not only
I
have
got a great idea.
Not
Say
only
his name 100 times and try and walk in the ocean. What's going to happen? You're going to sink.
Right.
Go ahead, try it. You're gonna sink.
Not only.
Right? Doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, not only have I not seen it myself, but also I don't know a single soul who has actually witnessed it either. And I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who heard the stories, but none of them have actually witnessed them or had them happen to them. Every once in a while, you might hear something vague, like, "Oh, I couldn't get pregnant, but now I'm pregnant." Well, that's not really something you can prove to everybody. I mean, you could, but no woman's going to go and flash around her her hospital report. You know, so things that are not provable, that's like, why waste your time even saying?
No, but the funny thing is that if it's not provable, right? Where do you get the gall to say this is the reason it happened?
Right. Oh yeah. Right. Exactly.
It's like a person who prays and he says, "I had so much intention, God for sure is going to answer my prayers."
Mm-hmm. Right.
where does the person get off saying, saying such a thing? You have no right rhyme or reason, to even think such a thing. I mean, there's so many different levels what a person can reach or whatever. You think you reach the highest level, and now you're gonna pull God's arm, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna twist his arm behind his back and say, "No, because I did this, you have to do this for me."
Right.
God says, "I don't have to do anything."
Right.
Maybe you don't deserve it. Maybe, who knows what? But the bottom line is, show me because you prayed to X, Y, or Z. That's the reason it happened.
Right.
Yeah. The onus is on you. It's not on me. The onus is on you to prove it. Well, I prayed, right now, and this is what happened. Direct result.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But we may, forget Kabbalah and all these other things. We may, what we do, the direct result may not be right now. We don't have a direct result because it'll be a zap treatment. Imagine you want to sit down a nice, steak and potatoes and high in cholesterol and fat, and God zaps and makes a salad. Right? Then you're going to ask when bad things happen to good people. You're going to say you wouldn't have free will. Every time you smoke a cigarette, zap. You won't die. You'll just get, stunned.
Right.
You wouldn't have free will if it was a zap. If everything we did had direct repercussions right after. Doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work like that, how can you say what I did right now affects?
Right.
What happened right afterward.
And I want to clarify something too. When I was saying earlier, I've never seen a miracle myself. When I say miracle, I don't mean somebody who was sick all of a sudden they don't feel sick anymore. I'm talking about something that's, like I said, that you can actually, you saw it and you know for a fact that was a miracle. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I've had healings. I've prayed for myself before, and one time I even did it jokingly in the name of Moses because the kids were here, and like moments later I was feeling wonderful. So did Moses heal me? Or did God honor my prayer because I said in the name of Moses? I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you prayed for someone and made them not sick anymore or whatever the case may be. The biggest case that I could say I think was borderline. Maybe it was a miraculous event, I'm not sure, but a while back I had this bad sciatic nerve that had me like literally bedridden for 2 days, and I was supposed to go to my nephew's wedding, and it's like before the wedding came up, it was my nephew of my oldest brother who doesn't talk to me because I'm no longer a Christian. But my nephew invited me to go, and I told my son, I said, I'll be there unless I'm dead or lying in a ditch somewhere. I said, I'll be there, right? So it's like the night before, and it's like it's getting, the sciatic nerve is getting so bad. I got up, and I had to get up out of bed because it was just so painful, and I got up. It took me like probably 7 or 8 minutes just to walk across the bedroom because it was just like a constant run of electricity running through your leg or whatever. It was really painful. And so I went in there, and I just I sit down in the restroom, and I was sitting there, and I was like, oh man, this is horrible. And I was like, man, I've got to get to this wedding. And it's like, I'm literally hours away from having to call my son and say, okay, come get me. I told you I'd be there, so you can drag my butt up there. And within about 30 to 45 seconds, maybe a minute or so, the pain went from an extreme level 10 pain down to like nothing in like less than 45 seconds to a minute. And after having it for 2 days solid, the first day I had it, but it was manageable. It was tolerable. But the second day was like unbearable, and the third day was certainly unbearable. And man, just like that, I was like, I prayed, and just all of a sudden it was gone. And it hasn't been back since. So if that was truly a miraculous event, which part of me thinks it was, because I was up to now, at least to me, I know for a fact it happened in me. But if a Christian says, well, Jesus is the only one that does miracles, whatever, then how do you explain that event where God answered my prayer and I don't believe in Jesus anymore? I'm not cursed, apparently, otherwise he would have probably made it worse, right?
Depends according to who.
Yeah. So you see, the problem we have here is it's not something that people can use to prove a point. There's nothing to prove there. I mean, because that's never, according to Torah, miracles is not something we're supposed to be watching for when the Messiah comes. Now, not saying he won't perform one. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but that's not the point. But that seems to be where all the energy is pushed regarding...
No, that's why, though, if there would be open miracles, that's why no one would be allowed to convert, like in the time of King David and Solomon, right? When they had the temple and all the great things were going on with the Jewish people, there were open miracles, right? Open miracles takes away free will. Right. So too, when the Messiah comes, there will be open miracles greater than what happened in Egypt. Is anyone going to be allowed to convert? No, because you're not going to have free will at that point.
Gotcha.
Your free will is is taken away, but it's going to be clear. Let's make clear as day. Those miracles are going to be open miracles.
Right.
Everyone's going to say, you can't explain it, like Webster's fifth definition or something, or like Saturn was out of orbit and all the plagues happened, or who knows what. It's going to be open. It's going to be clear. Right, there's gonna be no doubt, right? But up until that point, what do you do with somebody was sick with who knows what disease, and all of a sudden it just disappears by itself, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say without praying to anybody or whatever, it just goes away by itself, it just disappears, right? Doctors can't figure it out, no one can figure it out. Is that an open miracle? It's not, according to nature, it's not supposed to happen, right? So why did it happen? Who knows? But you can't pinpoint. That's the point. You can't pinpoint it to something. And say it's because of this happened, right? That's, that you got no proof. You absolutely got no proof. I just think it's, it's very ironic, with all these different things, in my language, and I was growing up, it's like, put up or shut up, like, show me. Show me. You can't show me, then, there's no logical proof. Absolutely no logical proof. But, again, someone will say, well, I prayed to him and he answered me. Okay? But that's,
right.
There's no, there's no guarantee for that, as well. And the question is also, how are you going to define what a miracle is? There could be things that, it looks like an open miracle, but, statistically okay, even if it's a very small, amount, like, even if it's 1 in 10,000, 1 in a million, there's still a very small statistical chance that it could happen. And you just happen to hit it.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I just read a story. Over Shabbos about somebody had a very rare disease, and it made him paralyzed overnight. And after like tremendous amount of work and effort, it passed. I mean, the person still has to walk with like a walking stick or whatever, and someone else that I know, had the same thing, and it totally paralyzed them. They're totally healthy, right? They totally got paralyzed. And then through that, what happened afterwards? They got cancer and they died. Now, this disease shouldn't kill somebody. I mean, it can come, it can go, right? It can also disappear, mm-hmm. right? It can also seemingly disappear, but it shouldn't necessarily like kill someone. Again, it can make someone paralyzed up to a point, but after a while they should get out of it. So, so this person, that worked and did, water aerobics and did these other things, took him a long time. Took him a few years to like really get on his feet. So you could say he didn't give up, he didn't this, he didn't that, all kinds of different things, when this other person, got zapped, and 6 months later was in the grave. We can't explain, that, I'm just pointing out that the disease shouldn't necessarily have done what it did.
Right.
To this other person. We have no way to explain, right, exactly what happened. It is one thing after another. The immune system gave out, got cancer right after that, and that was it. Right, but that was because the immune system was very weak, but it wasn't supposed to go like that. Right, they might have had the problem their entire life, but they should have been able to come out of it. Right, the other person, you're going to say, well, he prayed, he did this, he did that. We're going to say, he's more righteous, this person less righteous. We have no idea. We have no idea what's going on. That's, again, it's just hard to, it's just hard to fathom that someone can claim, one thing over another. It seems like there's no rhyme or reason. Obviously, yesh din v'yesh dayan. There's a judge, and there is judgment. But we don't know how. We can't fathom it when we see it, right? Because of evil and other things, and we've already spoken about that. But that we can't make sense out of. Can people do miracles today? Sure. You just have to know what to tap into.
Right.
But again, that's no proof. That's no proof either. But again, even if someone has done open miracles, so
So let's spend the next little bit amount of time talking about Deuteronomy 13. Just in general, obviously it's going to be connected to our title because that's one of the sites we're using for it. So, but just kind of break down 1 through 5 for us on a more close-up level, if you don't mind.
Deuteronomy, where are you?
13, 1 through 5.
13.
Let me see if I can put that on screen for a minute.
Well, you want to speak about the first verse. We can speak about that all day and all night, right? This is the word I command you, observe it, shall not add, not subtract. You want to get into oral law? We're not going to go there, right? You're not allowed to add or subtract, right? If it stands up amidst a prophet or a dreamer and he dreams, produces a sign or a wonder, right? Mm-hmm. He says, let us follow gods of others. What does the dream tell him? What does the miracle tell him? This isn't God. This is, follow other gods. What do we call that? We call that idolatry. He does miracles in the name of that God. Whatever that God is, we'll call him, Bob, short little fat guy, right? Let's say he says it in front of, Mr. Buddha himself. And he says, I prayed to Buddha and now look, I can walk on water. And look, behold, he's walking on water. Right? You kill him. He's a false prophet. Doesn't matter if he does miracles or not. He's causing others to go astray because you're not allowed to follow other gods, even if you do miracles. So what does that tell you? That means that miracles are not the end all things, right? Miracles do not a prophet make, but miracles a person can tap into who knows what. But if it's going to cause you to follow other gods, that's forbidden, right? And you're liable for the death penalty. Because it says, do not hearken the words of the prophet, the dream of a dream. Hashem your God is testing you to know whether you love Hashem your God with all your heart and with all your soul. It's a test. So therefore, what happens is if someone has done a miracle in front of them, or multiple miracles, and they look, why you need to follow the Torah? Look at this. This is true. Look, miracle after miracle, unbelievable, right? I can walk, I can fly, I can do all these things. What an unbelievable thing. It's going to cause the person to go astray. Yeah, it could. It could definitely cause the person to go astray, go away from Torah. But what does God say? What does the Torah over here say? It says it's a test. That's what it is. There are many tests that we have. But a person can be tested with this as well. And that if someone does miracles, you can say, I'm going to go after him. Look, he does miracles. Right? It's definitely a way. It's definitely a way to go away from God. As the Torah says in verse 5, Hashem your God, you shall follow him, right? You shall fear him. His commandments shall you observe. His voice shall you hearken. You shall serve him, and to him you shall cleave. So if someone comes along and does miracles and says this is the real God, and not Hashem, you throw him out, right? Not that you throw him out, you kill him, right? He's a false prophet. Can't go against what God said. So, so therefore, why is it dangerous? Why is it so dangerous? Why are we going to give him the most severe of punishments? Because he's going to cause people to go astray and to go after other gods. There's nothing worse in the Torah, right, than idolatry. How many times right? 26, 30 times. It speaks about idolatry, right? After the 10 Commandments, even before. It talks all kinds of things about idolatry. This miracle is going to cause people to go astray, which is pretty bad. It's one of the things JC was caught for, was causing people to go astray. To go after idols, right? To go after other idols, right? So that's a pretty severe thing.
Just to clarify that point, because the clear argument against that, which is only proving that it's not your original intent, was Jesus never said go worship Baal or anything like that. But the point is, the New Testament itself filtered people into worshiping Jesus as a God. Now, Christians will tell you, well, Jesus and God is either the same thing, or he's part of a Trinity, or and that doesn't violate him being God because he works for God. There's so many excuses that they can use. But at the end of the day, from the Christian perspective, and we can talk about the Messianic perspective too on another show, but the Christian's perspective on this is that and this is you won't get any arguments on this. Jesus is here now, and we don't have to keep the law anymore. That is a clear violation of Deuteronomy 13. Now, Messianic-wise, they say, no, he didn't teach that. And I tend to agree with the Messianic view more than I do the Christian view, but still. So to say that, for a Christian to say, well, that's not Jesus because he didn't lead us after other gods, I'm like, yes, he did. I mean, he basically, number one, he took you away from Hashem and his holy commandments, right?
Right. So even if he didn't, the people around him did. So either way, it's through him.
Right.
What's the difference? Right. What's the difference? The other thing, the major bone of contention amongst them also said you shouldn't add or subtract to the Torah. So that's what they'll say. We don't have to listen to the rabbis.
What verse is that? Again, I was going to pull that up and I can't.
Verse 1.
No, I mean don't add or subtract. Where's that at?
Don't add or subtract.
Where is that at in the scriptures?
Deuteronomy 13, verse 1. The entire word that I command you, you shall observe it. You shall not add to it.
Yeah. The English version is different. It's one verse off. That's why. Okay. I thought it was in that same area, but when I couldn't actually find it, I was like, what happened here? It's gone. But it's actually 1232.
They took it out.
It's interesting how it's interesting how they separated that, because it makes you feel like it's not even connected. It says, what things soever I command you, observe to do it, thou shalt not add to nor diminish from it. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams that gives you a sign or wonder, and the sign of wonder comes to pass, and it's like, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's what it means. You're adding to it. Yeah, by having this prophet who's a false prophet come out,
right,
and have you go against God. Doesn't matter who does it. Doesn't matter if it's not the prophet himself or whoever.
Right.
Even if it's a whole contingency of people that make it up afterwards, doesn't matter. You're still taking away. You're still taking away from here. So even something that makes sense, that a person would understand through their own human intelligence, to honor God. Let's say, I don't know, they come up with a new idea that comes to honor God, it's still forbidden, right? It's still considered an abomination in God's eyes for this whole reason. You're not allowed to add or subtract, even if you think it's the right thing. Even if it makes God look better than sliced cheese, whatever it is, stick him on a bun, I don't know, whatever it is. At the end of the day, even if it's going to make God look so great, you're not allowed to add, you're not allowed to add or subtract, which is not what, not what the Talmud is, not what the rabbis do. It's, it's a totally different thing, which comes up, more times, more times than that. Making a fence around the Torah means I'm not adding to it.
Right.
If I put extra tefillin in my parchment, extra parchment in my tefillin instead of backwards, right? That's adding. Adding extra fringes on my tzitzis, that's adding. Putting a fence around the Torah is a totally different thing.
Right, agreed.
Right? It's explaining what the Torah means with a running commentary doesn't mean I'm adding to it. Yeah, but it doesn't say that in the Torah. You're right. It doesn't. But then what does it mean? Then you have to come up with a definition, and there's so many things in the Torah, that have no definitions, which, I constantly, I don't want to say argue with people. It's not really an argument, but, it comes up with the same thing over and over and over. But they're adding to the Torah. How can this not be adding to the Torah? And how can this be considered adding to the Torah? Because it goes against what God wants.
If you really wanted to be like really cut and dry on this whole adding to the Torah and how a lot of people will critique the oral law and other things, the Talmud and commentaries like that, the thing that really makes me wonder how we could even say such things is because, number one, pretty much every Christian I know has either on their bookshelf or on their phone or immediate access to the Strong's Concordance. And so if they've ever needed the Strong's Concordance, you've just brought in your own oral law. I mean, it's just not called the Talmud, it's called the Strong's Concordance. You're trusting someone else's interpretation of what's written there. And for all that matter, even the English translation of the Bible, unless you are reading it straight from the Hebrew, you're taking somebody's insight other than what's actually written there.
So they say we don't believe in the rabbis, but they're the ones that gave over the Masoretic text. Right. They put vowels in. They put vowels in, and you say, well, I'm going to pick and choose what I think of the rabbis. This I'm going to agree with because I have no other way to understand what the Torah says. Right. But I'm going to change it around. You can't pick and choose.
Yeah,
right?
And that's true. That's true.
And people do that. People do that all the time. Without vowels, you would never understand the words at all.
Right.
You wouldn't have a translation. They know. I only, but they all hold of it. They all hold of it. There's no other way to interpret it. Because you're adding to the Torah. Do me a favor. How else are you going to understand the Torah in English or in any other language without the vowels? It's impossible. It's impossible. And then you're going to make, then you're going to make total mistakes across the board. That's it just boggles my mind. I understand what the other side says, but every time someone someone brings it up, to say, well, tell me what the verse means. Give me an explanation that makes sense. Don't change it. Don't misinterpret it. Don't it's all in context. You have to see what it means, but you need a running commentary. But if you go at the end here, verse 6, chapter 13, verse 6, it says that the prophet and that dreamer of a dream shall be put to death. Why? Because he spoke perversion against Hashem your God, took you out of the land of Egypt, redeemed you from the house of slavery, to make you stray from the path on which Hashem your God has commanded. It's a test, but what is he trying to do? Right. He's trying to get you to go astray. You shall destroy the evil from your midst. The Torah does not say that about everything. Right. Just, kill him for this, kill him for that. There's certain things that just, it's just it's a rabbinical infraction. You're going to get whipped for it. You're not going to get killed. Right. There are plenty of things you don't get killed for. This is pretty egregious. Why? Because you're going against what God wants. How do I know? Because he said it.
Yep.
Right. He said it. Moses wrote it. That's it. Right. We'll be Karaites for a second. What does this mean? You have spoken perversion. You've gone again. You've not hearkened to what God said. You went against the parameters the way the Torah is set up. If you go against the parameters, okay, that's pretty severe. You're going to draw people away from God. That you have to rip up. Right. That you have to destroy the evil from your midst. He's liable for the death penalty. Right. That's why even if he does a sign or wonder, even if it's a test, you knock him out. You have to knock him out because that's going to cause people to go astray. Because if someone sees someone do a miracle, and seemingly an open miracle, right, and that's the way it looks, that's it. Who's he going to believe? A God that he doesn't see, a God that he doesn't feel? Right, that's a good point. So, necessarily a God that, doesn't speak to him, doesn't come to him in a dream, or someone who's walking on water. Like, okay, I'll take him. Because he's showing me open miracles. That doesn't matter. Show a little fat guy, whoever's doing the open miracle, that is going to cause the Jewish people to go astray, right? And a person's going to say, well, I'm going to believe in him. I'm certainly going to take after him. Why? Very simple. He's the one doing the miracle. This is a problem that Abraham had. Everybody's walking around with their pocket God, use my glass case. Here's Bob. Don't leave home without her. Everyone's got their pocket God. They say, hey, does God ever speak to you? No. Did he ever say anything? Come to you in a dream? Something? No, but I know he exists through design. Right. Right? So everyone's got their own pocket God walking around. And he brought absolute monotheism to the world. Even his father thought he was crazy. Right? Because his father sold idols. So his father was out one day. Medrash says, takes a stick, destroys all the idols, puts the stick in one hand of the idol. So what happens? Father comes back and says, hey, what happens? Oh, the idols, they were fighting. It was a big war, and this idol won. So Derek says to his son, he goes, hey, they can't do that. They can't fight. They can't move. They said, really? So why do you worship them?
Hey, you know what?
What did he do? He took him to Nimrod. Right. Nimrod's the fiery furnace. Good going, Dad. Right? But if these things don't have power or whatever, okay. So why are you walking around with them? They made a serious mistake in idolatry.
Right.
Not that they thought these idols, could do things, but they gave the power of an intermediary. When you pray to something that's an intermediary and we have a direct connection, that's called idolatry. Doesn't matter if it's a short little fat guy in a stick, a totem pole. It doesn't matter. They're not worshiping it, right? They're worshiping what it represents, right? The Talmud says one of the kings said to Rav Ashi, one of the final arbiters of the Talmud, who put the Talmud together, said if you would have been, so Rav Ashi asked him, how could you have gone after idolatry? It doesn't make sense, this, that. And he said, if you would have been in my generation, you would have been running after its coattails, right? And it was a very powerful thing that, okay, so idolatry, certain places is very big, right? But it got brought down many, many levels. In previous generations. So, that being said, it's we look at it as kind of being silly in a certain way. People worship idols, they have power, this, that, okay, they can give them power, whatever. But, but that's, people think it's just bowing down to something. It's anything you give power to. Right. Even if you say, well, I believe God created the world, but he gave these intermediaries power outside of him, right? Goes against the Ramos 13 principles of faith, goes against so many different things. Right, but the fact that something is given power that it doesn't have doesn't matter what it is. It could be a spiritual power, physical power, right? That we call 100% idolatry, and that is, that's forbidden. But the power of idolatry today, we don't, has been weakened in many ways. Again, even in places where, it still is pretty strong, certainly in the Far East and, in India and different, certainly in different places. Idol worship's still alive and kicking, but
discussing
in the Western world,
the idol worship of Abraham you was mentioning, there's a really neat, I think it's like 30 to 45 minute long cartoon that somebody that came right out of the Midrash. Me and my wife was like, we were amazed at how well everything lined up with the Midrash. So that may give away the source, but it's a really great. It's like 45 minutes long, and it's literally called Young Abraham. I guarantee if you buy it, you're gonna love it. So I have no connection with them at all. I thought that was amazing. You guys would love that too. So let's see. Somebody mentioned, I think it was Kosher Korean. Yeah, said pulled up the other verse that I was that actually is more specific. Yeah, but I would do more. Is that a spoken tongues? I'm just kidding. That more specifically declares what it means to don't add to, or what it was intended by that in Deuteronomy 4:2. Let me put that on your screen. Oh, we actually have it. I thought we'd loaned that one out. Actually, let me show you this real fast. This is cool. This is what it looks like. I'm going to see if I can scoot in some. Young Abraham. But that's it. That is a really, really amazing little cartoon thing right there. Might be 30 minutes. It's 30 to 45 minutes. I'm not really sure. So, yeah, just look it up. You might be able to find it on Amazon. So, okay, so
that's more specific, right?
Yeah,
here,
so discuss.
Right? So that's primitive for Frank.
I'm going to put that on the screen real quick, and that way the people can just see it for themselves. Not making this stuff up, man. You shall not add to the word.
So again, what's verse 3? Verse 3 says that your eyes have seen what Hashem did. The Baal Peor was an idol, right? Got destroyed, right? Destroyed him from your midst. Those who cling to Hashem, your God, you're alive today. So,
right.
So again, you want to add or subtract? Well, doesn't look like your end is going to be very good. So you still have to cling to God. Adding or subtracting takes you away from God. And again, that's what the Christians will say and others will say about oral law. That's adding and subtracting, which again is not.
And so here, you shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it. So for the purpose of, this is the purpose of this, that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I have commanded you, or which I command you. And so for anybody in the Christian walk to still demand that Jesus was, I guess you could say, kosher in a way, is really, they just don't know what the Hebrew Scriptures actually says on what to expect when a Messiah comes. So anyway.
Listen, they say nullified the law, right? He went against it, whatever.
I will tell you this: there's a lot of New Testament verses that Christians, I personally think that they completely misunderstand. Like for example, there's a verse, I forget where it's at, I have to look it up. It says Jesus is the end of the law for them that believe. But if you look at the Greek, it doesn't say end. It actually says he's the target of the law. So whatever Jesus did, that's what you should be doing. But they say the end of it, meaning he ended the law, but that's not what it actually says. But that's what they think it says because it's translated for them in English. It says end instead of target. So just look it up for yourself.
So most good things end with a bad translation. That's
true.
Or a mistranslation, right? In order to fit their worldview.
True.
So
true.
that makes that definitely that definitely makes sense. So this is something I bring about quite a bit. That again, if they're going to claim that that he's true, or someone always brings me from Deuteronomy, that's a reference to for the Muslims, for Muhammad, that's first of all, it doesn't say that. It's not clear it says that at all. But what does it mean? Don't add or subtract. Like, was God kidding? It's like, oh, don't add or subtract. Just kidding. Like, what did he mean? Right? It means if we take it literally, it means you're adding or subtracting. Right? You're taking away. You're causing people to go astray. That's why it's so severe. Right? That is, that's and that's the point. And all these other verses say, they want to bring in the book of Isaiah, in the book of Jeremiah, etc. Like, all these different misquotes. You still have to come back to that, right? You still have to come up with some like legitimate, answer about not adding or subtracting, right? Because otherwise, if this is a God-given book and in the Old Testament, whatever, then you got to come up with an answer why you're allowed to do that. But it's gonna be a solid answer. Can't be from a mistranslation or who knows what.
Very good. Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be, we'll call that a wrap for the day. Anytime you guys have a pressing question, I've noticed when I glance at YouTube that I see a lot of people typing questions in there, but I can't really stop and read those while we're actually doing the show. I mean, I can with Rabbi Singer though, because he takes a topic and he's gone for like 45 minutes. So, so I can read your comments there. But on these other shows, it's really not that easy for me to do. I don't have anybody in the studio with me, so it's just a one-man operation, man. So, with all that said, thank you guys for all tuning in. It has been a pleasure, and look forward to seeing you guys same time, same place next week. If you've got any good hot topic ideas, send an email to Rabbi or myself. Rabbi, what is your email address?
It's very difficult. Rabbi Chaim Coffman at gmail.com.
Hold on.
RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN at gmail.com.
Let me write that down because I might forget. Hey, it's funny. I'm bad with names in general. The people that I have the hardest time remembering their names is if their name is William or Chrissy, which is my wife's name, or David or Sarah. I don't know. It's too obvious. My brain just disconnects from it, I guess. I have no idea. But
maybe it's your alter ego just forgets who they are.
Don't tell them that. They might kick me out of the house, man. Right, that's funny. All right, good deal. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, it's been a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Shalom, shalom, Shabbat Tov. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה והכמיהה. אני אתה אתם תמיד כולם ביחד. חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד.